Hello everybody, today I'm going to be showing you how you can turn this into this. Now, the majority of you know that this is birch bark, and only some of you will know that this is birch tar glue. Now, this is one batch I did with all primitive techniques, and it's refined in a shell. I had it in the container, but unfortunately the shell did not hold up, and it kind of just broke. So I now have it in a storage shell. But anyways, I'm going to be drawing some figures for you so that you can see just how you might be able to get some of this. And then later on in the video, I'll show you some of the modern equipment and some of the more primitive equipment. So, diagram 1 is going to be modern tech. So here's the ground. You have one big can, preferably tin, that's not coated with anything, and your bark is all in here. And then you have a closed off with the dimples pointing down, because you got to punch holes through the lid. Then you have another tin can I should say, that collects all your oil, and then underneath the ground it has time to cool off. And then you set a fire up here, and it has to reach a certain point, and it will all boil out the birch bark oil, and then you get the results can vary. I didn't get a lot the first time I tried modern equipment. I'll post pictures, and then you will see. And the another point to make is you want about 1/4 of the can buried. Now next is a semi-primitive method. This method does not work. So you start off with a can again, birch bark in there, dimples pointing down. Then you have a shell. That would be this shell. This shell has been in the fire for a long time now. It's cooked. Anyways, you got a shell right here underneath the ground, and this is covered in ash. So this would all be ash. Right? So that's all ash. But you want to make sure the can is actually on top of the lid, or on top of the shell, sorry. And this is not covered in dirt, this is covered in ash. So you seal this so that it's airtight with ash. Unfortunately, this method does not work because the fire eventually will seep in through the ash and catch it on, and because you can't really control how airtight it is between the can and the shell, it just gets ruined. And now for the primitive method. Now there's two ways to do this. There's one method which burns up a lot of bark with not a lot of oil in return, or glue. And then there's another method which is still burns up a lot of oil in bark, but you get a lot of oil, or more oil than the first method. First primitive, and then the second will be over here, obviously, is you have one rock, it's propped up, and then you actually just start a small fire with a rolled up birch bark, much like this. And then this is called the evaporation method. So the smoke builds up on the rock, and then you scrape it away. I've seen this in a PNAS article. PNAS. They gotta change that. And they got it to work. I also got it to work. I got a little lump like that, which is actually in here. So I should say this is 2 batches of primitive glue. Now again, it burns up way too much oil for the amount of tar you get in return. Now second method, it's much like, oh, sorry about that. It's much like the semi-primitive method. Now my tripod is going to keep falling. This isn't good. Oh, I think I got it. Did I? Yeah. Second method, you have a shell which would be this shell that is completely shattered, buried. So the shell is buried. And then you have a big, sorry, it's in a hole, so it's in a perfect hole, the same size as this. You cover this all with ash, so in between the shell and the earth is a layer of ash. And then you have a bunch of these rolled up, and you kind of stack them. So you can imagine stack them side by side, and you only want to go 2 layers thick. So you got birch bark rolls above it. And then this, it takes a lot of ash, so save your ash from all the fires you're having. Has to be completely covered in ash. I'm not an artist, just so this is ash, and you want to make sure that the ash leaves a little hole or a little opening right in between the shell so the birch bark can go down into the shell. And that's how I did the last batch. And then you light a big fire. Now this method here, primitive attempt number 2, is my favorite method because it's the closest you can replicate it. This method is fun. Primitive method 1 with just the evaporation method, because it smells the best, but it in my opinion it's more time consuming. It takes up more resources than needs to be done, and you don't get a lot of yield back. This method is best if you need to get the most out of your birch bark. I've seen videos of it done with larger cans. My cans are only like vegetable soup cans and all that, so I can't really have it up to the size I need. But you can get a lot of yield with a bigger tins, like a tomato soup cans. Don't try this method, it doesn't work. Give this one a go, see how you like it. I'll show you some pictures coming up. This method also, unfortunately, I did not get video of this, me doing this, because I didn't think it would work. It kind of looks like an eye. Anyways, I didn't get any video of this method done. I did get some of this, and I believe I got some of this done. Not this either. I didn't think this one would work, and I didn't think this one would work. However, as you can tell, it clearly worked. And I can take that out and show you. It is a pretty good amount. I'm also going to post links for you guys, for you to go and watch other people that are much better at it than I am. I'm very new to birch bark making, or birch oil making, I should say. And I'm going to show you the videos I watched. But yeah, this has been on my bucket list for a while. This is definitely just going to be for display purposes. That's really it. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so now what you're seeing is me actually making the tar with primitive method number 1. Now, I don't know if you can tell or not, but this method doesn't require much skill, doesn't require much tools. It's literally just a river stone, some birch bark, and a little bit of fire. And you'll see in a few minutes you don't get much tar from this at all. I could only really stir it a little bit and get some on a tiny little twig. But this method, you just have a little bit of a overhang and you light a fire underneath it with birch bark. That is it. That's all I can say about the method. Alright, now you can see from that method that it's not very exciting. As I said twice now, it's literally just burning birch bark on a slightly overhung river cobble. Now, what you're seeing is that's the results. You don't get much out of it, and as you can see, I burnt a couple small rolls. Alright, unfortunately, I have some bad news. I forgot to film all the other ones. I guess I was just too into it, I guess. Um, but you can take my word for it. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm going to post a lot of links in the description so you can go watch what I watched before doing all this. The method that I used the last part, from the diagram I showed you, it's quite simple. You just put a shell in the ground or a skull cap covered in ash, or sorry, put a skull cap, birch bark rolls, covered in ash, light a fire on it, and you get quite a bit. I recommend trying the modern method first. That way you can get a feel of how the birch bark reacts to the heat. You can see how much needs to be above the ground, below the ground, and it's really all around better for you to learn that way. Thank you all for watching my video. See you later. Alright, I know the video is already super long. I think it's like 14 minutes now. But I wanted to just show you the shell. Now, I should have stopped with the shell the second time I tried to boil it. Because as you can see, that's a crack. And it started leaking through. So that might have been a problem. I should have used a skull cap. That's the edge. That's not. That's where my dumbass accidentally tipped it over and it leaked out. No, this one is just a storage container. But yeah, I thought this was pretty interesting to show you guys. You can see, well, I guess I can't really break that with one hand, but you can see where it started to crack. But yeah, um, I got a lot more birch bark. We had to cut down a tree in our front yard. I have a lot more birch bark. So in the future, I have more plans to film it. So I will, for sure, show you my method of getting this much out of one batch from primitive methods. Pretty sure that would be something you guys would be interested in. Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you when I upload again. Peace, guys.